Record.
Okay, so I thought that I would start with just a, a couple of kind of ways into this topic of metta. All of you practiced metta with me before, and I thought I'd start or contextualize metta as an orientation of the mind and heart, like a directionality or a turning of the mind and heart in a certain direction. I don't know if you've noticed in your own practice, but I keep discovering ways that I can forget the direction of practice. I keep discovering these different ways that I can just practice out of habit, or I can practice because I think I'm not good enough, or I can practice almost as a way of punishing myself for feeling certain things, or I can practice as a way to avoid feeling certain things. Does that sound familiar to any of you? Okay. Yeah. So this doesn't necessarily, I mean, this for me has been an ongoing process. We can practice and we can learn some of the same, it seems like the same lessons. We're learning the same lessons in a way, but in different ways, you know. And so that's not failure. That's expected. That's really part of this path because some of our habit patterns are very thematic. Do you recognize that in your practice? Like you have all these different versions of I'm not good enough. We have all these different versions of people suck. We have all these different versions of, so we can, and so it makes sense that we're gonna keep uncovering different ways that these versions show up in our life and our practice, and different versions that these themes and patterns make things difficult for us. Okay, so this for me, this context of metta as directionality has been really important because when I forget why I'm practicing, and when practice becomes just another hammer that I hit myself over the head with, then I lose my practice in a way, you know? And that becomes very painful, especially because for many of us, we're here because practice has become like a refuge, become a way that we come home. And that can feel compromised when when that practice itself begins to have a forcing or a striving tone to it. Okay, so metta just in itself is good. It's goodwill, loving kindness, friendliness. These are some of the translations of the word metta, and for me, it's been much more difficult to screw that up. It's like if I'm practicing metta, it's usually, it's got its own context and it can't go far uh, as far off into the thicket as just breath awareness, which I can really strive with, or even body scanning can really look for something that I think should be there in that type of practice. Okay, so metta can be a really nice, like the bumpers and the bowling lanes. Like it can kind of it can help us, in my experience, it can help us keep things in that tone of goodwill, in that tone of friendliness, for just for ourselves and for others. So I thought the next thing that I could briefly touch on before we practice, a couple of things, but the next thing is, what stands in the way of metta? What feels like it stands in the way of metta? And so as I say that, you might already be telling yourself that story of something you did or things you've done. And it's always that story that comes to mind first, oh God, if they knew about that, oh, I couldn't be here. or, oh gosh, don't let me think about that, there are things in the mind and heart that wake up very quickly when we attempt to offer ourselves friendliness and warmth and goodwill. Does that feel, you just might ask yourself, does that feel true for you? And I remember when I was first coming into practice in a more kind of dedicated way, when I was doing my yoga teacher training. And I had one of my teachers, and it was a 1 month, I might have mentioned this to some of you before, it was a 1 month immersion. Just like not so much like the 1 month of silence I did, but it was 1 month that I went and lived somewhere and lived with a group, and we did yoga every day, and it was just very immersive. It was accidentally transformative. I didn't go there to be transformed. I didn't go there to be happy. I went there to be a yoga teacher, to train. So one of my teachers there, her given name, her Sanskrit name was Priti, Priti, which translates as love. And I couldn't really even get anywhere near this teacher. It's like, it was too much. I was like, ah! I don't, it's too much. But at the same time, this really essential part of me, of course, wanted that. I wanted love. I want love. I want to be close to people. I want to feel love. I want to feel it. I want that to make its way in, And for a long time, I wasn't even aware really that it wasn't getting in. And this teacher, one day she taught this special workshop on yoga assists. I don't know if any of you have ever been in a yoga class, but when you get an assist, someone, the teacher has typically either maybe guided you by gently touching a shoulder or given you a press, some pressure, or usually some quality of touch. And so we were learning that, and Priti was, she was teaching it, but she was also receiving assists. And so it became my turn to give her an assist. I had to press down on her lower back. I was training as a teacher. I didn't know how hard to press. I didn't know if I'd done a good job. And afterwards, after the workshop, I came up to her. I rarely spoke to her one-on-one. I would kind of avoid her, and I said, Priti, I was wondering, how was that assist? Was it firm enough, or was it, how did it feel? And she, I'll never forget this. She looked at me, like, not in a cheerful way, but in a kind, like, thoughtful way. And she said something like, Deanna, you are a gentle and thoughtful and good person. She didn't say anything about the assist. She cut right to, what a lot of us want to feel about ourselves. That goodwill, that kindness, presence. And I remember in that moment, because I'd been working and being in the body for a long time that month, daily, hours and hours. I remember in that moment, I felt as if my ear closed against those words. Like I got this incredible tension, down this region of my body. It was almost like my body was contracting against it. It certainly didn't make it into my heart, but even my body had a problem with it. And that was, for me, this first kind of inkling that there was some really strong conditioning in here. Forget what was happening outside me and whether I could find a husband or whether I could reconcile with my mother. There was some really strong stuff happening here. Okay, so most of us have some strong conditioning, I think. I mean, just as instruments, just as human beings, I'm finding, at least for myself, we're very sensitive. And these things, you know, our life registers with us. So anyway, that's just to say, and maybe a story that was too long, that that we will typically feel resistance in the body, in the mind, and the heart to metta. And so this for me is a reason to practice. It's a reason to practice. It's a reason to try to get in there and see some of this patterning and conditioning until it begins to unravel. So that means that we don't have to remove all of these things we think are wrong with us. We don't have to analyze why my right ear closed up to these words. We don't have to get in there and figure out and fix and undo our lives. We can start right now to begin looking into the patterning and conditioning that stands in the way of love and loving kindness coming in or going out. So just something to be aware of, that you might notice resistance. Okay, the last part of this before we begin practice is just a reminder that this may sound, metta, loving kindness, these words, goodwill, may sound flowery, soppy, weak, but this practice requires, I think, incredible courage and an incredible honesty. This willing to meet what's in the mind, willing to see the ear and the body contract against love. And instead of analyzing it or getting wrapped up in how something's wrong with us, which nothing is wrong with us, instead of getting wrapped up in that, we have the courage to continue to practice, continue to meet those patterns. So, metta is very systematic. I mean, you could do it. It also lends itself to incredible creativity and variability, but it can also be done in a very systematic way so that we don't have to get tripped up or tangled up in, like I was saying, analysis or trying to solve problems. We can just kind of stick to the system. We can stick to the system, and we can do our best to just stay present to what happens as we do the work. And the benefits will take care of themselves. You don't have to believe me there. I hope that doesn't sound like a platitude. Just over the years of practice, I've seen for myself that the benefits take care of themselves. They come. You do the work and the benefits come. And they're often really unexpected, the way that they manifest or form. Okay, so I hope that this introduction will help encourage you to stay when I tell you that tonight we're going to practice exclusively metta for ourselves. This is where it starts. And I think it can really give us a good foundation for remembering that even when we begin to extend metta to others, that this practice is for ourselves. If we can't keep that in mind, then that is one way that metta can get off track. Okay. So from here, I'll guide about 15 minutes of metta. That is, it will be focused on learning to meet ourselves in this way. Okay. So let's go ahead and I'm going to mute everyone now. And we'll settle in for some practice. Okay. So bringing yourself into position to meet what's present, whatever position is most comfortable for that we can remain alert and also have some semblance of being able to soften into the posture. Let's begin with a couple of deeper breaths if that's helpful for you. And then as you're ready, just allowing the breath to settle, to become more comfortable. Just your breath, not the perfect breath, not the right breath, just your breath. It's coming and going. And taking a moment to bring some awareness to sound and the larger environment. Can you allow this way of listening to help you feel like you're softening and broadening into the room? And within this softness and broadness, which may be there for you and it may not be, it might, come and go. Just within awareness, can you now drop into the body? Feeling the head, the face, the throat and shoulders and arms and hands, and the heart region, which can be a very helpful region to build awareness for in metta practice. This may or may not be helpful to you, but right now, can you feel the heart region and the front body of the torso, the upper back and the back body of the torso, and the hips and the legs and feet? Aware of the thoughts that are present for you, the perceptions or images, the emotional content that's present for you. All of this coming and going, body sensations coming and going, sounds coming and going, the breath coming and going, all of this It's almost like all of this just all coming and going. It's for me, it's almost sometimes like it's just even it's like barely being here. And for some of us, our lives might feel like they're moving so quickly on top of this that we barely make contact, barely make contact. So just in these moments, these first moments, can there be a sense of just making contact? Nothing has to happen here. Can we just make contact with ourselves? I know for me that often when I see someone I really love or care about, I'm so excited. And it's great that first moment. I just, hi, hey, there's this moment of contact. And then ultimately, I don't ever know what to say after that. And I say too much and talk too much, and, it becomes very like awkward. But with the potential is that with ourselves, each moment can just be a hi, just contact and contact and contact and contact. And each moment of contact just being like a welcoming, a coming home each moment. So I'm going to be quiet for just a few breaths while we let that sink in, just contacting ourselves. And again, there may be resistance to even this simple contact. So just knowing that, noticing it, breathing with it, and patient. Uh, as much patience as you can muster. So feeling yourself here, in whatever position you've chosen, feeling the breath coming and going, and feeling thoughts coming and going, and maybe pain coming and going or persisting. Can you hold this with goodwill, with metta? Can you hold your own experience with the wish for a peaceful heart? So from here, we'll move into the more systematic phrases, which many of you have exposure to. And in the silence between the phrases, feel free to modify them to suit you, to resonate with you. May I have a peaceful heart. May I feel love and joy in my life. May I be free from animosity or other painful mind states. May I take care of my life with ease. And allowing yourself now to, if you've lost contact with yourself through thinking things should be differently than they are, or wanting things to be differently than they are, and can you just try to return to a more simple contact with yourself? Just, hello, I'm here. You could even say something that might feel a little more neutral, like, take your time. I'm here. Take your time. Breathe. And we'll go through the phrases again one more time. May I have a peaceful heart. May I feel love and joy in my life. May I be free from animosity and other painful mind states. May I take care of my life with ease. And again, if it's helpful to you, this idea of contact, just making contact with yourself, with the breath, the body, sound, thought, emotion, just, just coming to your own side and breathing with that, with goodwill, with friendliness. And as you're ready, as we transition out of formal practice, if it's helpful, taking a deeper breath if that's helpful for you. Opening your eyes if you're ready, returning to the screen, to the group. I just want to give a, information that probably we are pretty close to the time that this meeting will be ending because of the limitations of the software or of my account. And so instead of asking for questions now, because I would hate to cut anyone off, and I'm hoping that there are questions or reflections. I'll end with just some invitations for contemplation. And so, after we leave the group, you could write them down if that's helpful, or you could just jot down some notes from what you noticed tonight or what stood out for you. And I'll make arrangements that we'll have more time to talk next Monday, okay? My countdown is showing that we have 3 minutes left. And so, some contemplations that I'll offer is first, what benefits could I enjoy in my life from friendly contact with myself? What benefits could I enjoy in my life from friendly contact with myself? And then to return to some of the content of the introduction to this meeting. What do I perceive stands in the way of this friendly contact? What do I perceive stands in the way of this friendly contact? And finally, how can I meet this too? How can I meet this too with kindness or with metta? Okay, so good luck with that work over the week. I'll send out some homework invitation, okay, for those of you who are here tonight, and a link to the video. And I'll hope to see you here next Monday. Okay, everyone? Okay. Bye. It's great to practice with you. It's great to see all of you again here. I'll see you next week. Okay. Bye.